Welcome into the Buccaneer pregame show. Sadly, the last pregame show of the spring season, but we're ending it on a good note with a game between Gardner Webb and Charleston Southern on ESPN Plus at 12 o'clock. I'm your host, Anna Whitty, and me and my co-host, Kelly McClatchy, we're joined by head coach of Gardner Webb, Tre Lamb, Charleston Southern head coach, Autry Denson, and Gardner Webb's broadcaster, Constantino. And lastly, Charleston Southern's wide receiver, Isaac Ross, who's doing big things for the Buccaneers this season. You don't want to miss it right here on the Buccaneer pregame show. Joined by the Gardner Webb head football coach, Tre Lamb, as he is about to face Charleston Southern for the first time. Coach, you were hired in December of 2019. Obviously, we didn't expect the year that just happened, but how was it different to have 14 months to prepare for your first opponent?
Yeah, it's been a grind. I'll be honest with you. You know, it's taken some of the fun out of it for our players and coaches. I think everybody feels that way, just dealing with mask and COVID protocols and not being able to spend a lot of time together as a team or coaching staff, kind of operating from a distance for 14 months, going on pause and going on and off, not knowing when you're going to play, if you're going to play, if you're going to practice. COVID is undefeated, and I think we've done a really good job managing our way through it. And I think we've brought our program forward in the last 14 months. I think we're in a much better place now than when I got hired. Kind of gave us an opportunity to catch up a little bit, make some roster changes, which we still need to do, but make some roster changes, get the culture kind of where we want it, and build a foundation during a trying time.
Well, speaking of those roster changes, a transfer student in Carlton Aiken has taken most of the snaps for you guys this season. What has he brought to your offense that you felt it needed?
He's played okay. He had a really good game the first game of the year and didn't play as well in the last two games. And a hard thing for him is he's only been here 3 months. So he has totally tried to learn a new offense and learn how to be the point guard, if you will, in our spread offense attack. But I think he's done well. I think he still has plenty of room to improve, and I'm glad we got him for 2 more seasons.
And speaking of coming in and wanting to change the culture and seeing how what's the culture for you? What do you want to implement into this program?
Well, I just want our guys to know we love them first. And we think of our guys as much more than just a jersey number or a football player. And I want to see them walk out of here in 4 years with a bunch of wins. But at the same time, I want them to have a good time. I think I'm a very positive person. I love energy. I love juice. I don't like these guys. If they feel like they have to show up to practice or have to show up to work, they're not going to be as productive. I want them to enjoy it. I want them to look back and say, I'm a better husband, better dad, because I played for Coach Lamb and played in the culture that he built. And I think it's filtering through our older guys into some of our freshmen now, but we still got a ways to go, but we are definitely headed in the right direction from a positivity and energy standpoint.
In the last half of football that you played, you didn't put up any points. What's been the biggest emphasis in these last 2 weeks to start off on a good foot here today?
Well, we got to practice more and practice better. We went on a COVID pause for about 7 days between games and didn't have a lot of practice time. And it showed up. We were sloppy. We dropped the ball. We fumbled. We threw interceptions. We dropped the snaps. We had a bunch of missed assignments. And I think offensively, you look across college football this spring, in general, offense has been sloppy. And I think that comes to not having a ton of practice and preparation time. And offense is all timing and spacing. And if that timing and spacing is messed up on one play, it's not going to work. So we got to practice better and prepare better. And we've had a good week of practice this week, and I expect us to play better on offense this Saturday.
And today will be the last time your team faces an opponent until the fall. So what will you be looking for from your team or from individual players moving forward?
Yeah, just still trying to figure out where our weaknesses are. I think, 4 games is a small sample size to figure out what we need and what direction we need to go. We got to build depth. We got to play more people. And right now we're not a very deep football team. Our starters, our first, top 20 guys are pretty good. We got to get deeper. We got a bunch of true freshmen we're playing. We got to develop them this offseason. And I told our guys, we got to sleep on this game today for for 4 months. You know, we won't be able to get the taste out of our mouth from this Saturday until next September. So this is a huge offseason for us. We really need to get a win today to build momentum into this offseason. 3-1 sounds a heck of a lot better than 2-2.
Mhm.
So Coach Denson, they do a great job, and he's telling his kids the same thing. You know, 2-2 sounds a lot better than 1-3. So we're both in the same boat. We both need a win. I think they've got a really good football team, well-coached ball club. I love their quarterback. He's dangerous. He makes me nervous, and I'm losing sleep at night because of him. But they got a good ball club. I think both teams are going to want it. I think both teams are going to play hard, and the team that plays the best will come out on top.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Coach, and best of luck today.
Thank you, Anna.
Joined by Charleston Southern head coach Autry Denson as they prepare to take on Gardner Webb this week. Coach, defensively, we saw a lot of bright spots from your team last week, starting with the pressure on Robert Morris's O-line and, of course, the interception. And I saw you were a lot happier towards the end of the game. What can you use from last week to help you prepare for today?
Just to stay committed to our process of preparation, and just to continue to emphasize to the guys how important it is that we go out and execute. What you were alluding to is basically in the first half, man, we had a lot of opportunities that we squandered. And unfortunately, usually in the game of football, when that happens, they usually come back and bite you. Our guys did a really good job of not allowing that to happen. Really picked it up in the second half on in every facet of the game, offense, defense, and on special forces, which is our special teams. And so what we want to continue to build on, man, is just finding a way to be the best team in that stadium every week that we play.
Offensively, your quarterback, Jack Chambers, has the most yards in rushing and passing. And then last week in the Big South, and then last week he had 99 yards. How do you balance his safety, but also allowing him to use his feet so much?
Oh man, we're out there. He's a football player, and Jack wants to be viewed as such. So we again, our job is to play to our standards, or through our standards, which is to give a God honoring effort with the God honoring attitude in all we do. And when we say lead the results up to God, that also is the injuries and the things that are part of the game. You can't play worrying about getting hurt. You just got to go out and just honor God with your effort and let the results, injuries albeit, take care of themselves.
And Gardner Webb has a pretty talented receiving core led by Isaiah Gathings and Devron Harper. What can you do defensively to make those players less effective today?
Well, football and everything starts up front. So what we could do is make that quarterback uncomfortable, right? Get our D-line to get pressure on that quarterback, reestablish the line of scrimmage by getting knocked back in the run game and being stymied there, so that way those defensive backs and linebackers don't have to cover as long because that quarterback's not comfortable. So that's what we can do, and that's what we expect them to do.
And today is your last game before you take a short off season and then play again in the fall. What would you like to see from your team or maybe individual players before you head into this off season and start looking forward?
It's always team first. So from a team aspect, and in our case, our football ministry, what you want to see us do is finally put together a complete game, right, in every facet of it. With the abbreviated season, that's been one of the challenges that I know that we've experienced, as well as other coaches, is that normally the normal progression of kind of ramping up to who you're going to be, through the middle of a season, and then by the end of the season really peaking, that's been kind of eliminated, because every game is so important. Because you only have 4, you don't get that natural progression. So what I like to see happen with this being our 4th game is guys now working out the kinks, having a chance to kind of ramp up to us playing a complete game in all 3 phases.
And speaking of that last game and just a weird year in general, from a strength and conditioning and mental aspect of this season, how has preparation looked different from you from opposed to playing in the fall and now having to play in the spring?
You know what? We've been going at it for a really long time. We came back in July, right, expecting to play in the fall, and so it's one thing that you're playing not in the fall, but it's another thing to realize that it's like being on standby and alert for a much longer time. So they've been on alert since July. They've been rearing to go since July. And then everything you do from a preparation standpoint is to get you ready to play. So you haven't had that downtime since July. So it's been a much longer extended amount of guests kind of being on guard, kind of on call, ready to go in preparation mode. And so our guys are due for a mental break, right? And that's just not from football. That's from COVID. That's from taking courses online. We forget they're student athletes. And so they still have the student commitment side of this thing. So the chance just to get them a mental, just kind of flushing and a refreshing, I'm looking forward to that for our guys.
And when you talk about being put on standby for such a long period of time, does that affect when your players start to peak performance-wise?
Well, we've never been here before, so that's the thing. You are you working with no reference point, but you're doing the best you can, and then you're finding out if it was the right decision as you are experiencing that decision. So that's the different part. There was no reference point. So for the most part, we are pleased. Our strength staff does BG does a great job. We're blessed to have him, and then our young men do a great job of following suit. So you know what? It has been interesting to say the least, and I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, I am sure. Did you have more conversations with Coach Gilbert this year than maybe you ever have?
We always are in, we do a pretty good job. All of our coaches like each other. So we hang out, we do stuff. So that part helps, right? But obviously, again, because it was extended, a lot more conversations going into the planning, and then additional conversations to those conversations, because every plan had to have a contingent to a contingent to a contingent based upon what was going to happen. And then all of those contingencies you basically threw out the window when you got the final results back, and then you had to then work from there. So it was a lot of planning, replan. Okay, think we're going this way, and then having the ability to adjust on the fly to what actually was.
Right. Well, you're here. You're at your last game. It's happening today, Coach. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, and best of luck against Gardner Webb.
All right. Thank you very much. You have God bless and go Bucks.
We continue on. We want to welcome in this next person we're talking to. It's Phil Constantino, the director of broadcasting for Gardner Webb. And Phil, how's it going? I know the spring's been crazy for just about everybody. So how you doing?
Think about the largest fire hose that you've ever seen in your life and drink from it. That's the spring. Okay. I think you know this. I mean, you do a bunch of games down at Charleston Southern. You know this. I watch the NCAA tournament. I hear about all the, kudos to the athletes for going through it. Kudos to the coaches. What about guys like us whose schedules change every day? But it all seems to be calming down a little bit. Schedules seem to be a little bit more set in stone. So I'm alive.
Hey, that's all we can ask for this point. Look, all the schedule, everything is starting to ramp down. The year's almost done. Hopefully getting back more to normal. But look, it's glad to know you're doing well, but we're here to talk some football. We got a pretty big game coming up to wrap up the spring for both Charleston Southern and Gardner Webb. And you're the guy to talk to know about Gardner Webb football. So first off, we'll just ask you, how has the spring gone for this team? How have they played? How have they looked?
I think at times they've looked like a program, a team that is incredibly different than any Gardner Webb football you probably watched in the past. In the past, it was a lot more run the football. Nowadays, under Tre Lamb, young offensive mind, he's more, up to speed with the modern age of football. Air raid offense, throw it all over the field, fun football to watch, can score points in bunches, came back from down 3 scores to beat a ranked Elon team in week 1. Struggled early versus Presbyterian, came back, and in a wild 2 overtime game, won it in the second overtime. And then versus Monmouth in the third game, got off to a slow start, went down by several scores, then scored 16 unanswered points right before halftime to make it a 20-19 game at halftime before ultimately getting blown out in the second half. So it's been exciting, right? Can score in bunches, throw the ball all over the field. Some major impact guys, some of whom have NFL futures potentially. At the same time, that rhythm just can't get it going. COVID has plagued them tremendously. There have been 2 games. You've seen the schedule adjustments. Your fans watching this have seen the schedule adjustments. There have been multiple games that have been shifted. Now they'll only play 4 games. And I think that has halted the momentum. I think that really hurt them versus Monmouth, that they didn't play for almost 2 full weeks without a full practice until just a couple of days before Monmouth. And then finally the whole team was together. And even still, there were 2 or 3 guys out because of contact tracing. And then now there's a set bye, and then 2 weeks later they play a game. So haven't played a whole lot of football because of the stop and start from COVID. But when they have, it has looked like something that I think come the fall, the Big South will be surprised, and fans in this region of the country will be surprised to see what Gardner Webb looks like.
Yeah, the stop and start definitely been tough for just about everybody. And it's Gardner Webb, probably one of the hardest, at least the last couple, I guess, month or so, in the entirety of the FCS. You mentioned Tre Lamb, a new coach coming in. You mentioned new, fun, high-flying, high-powered kind of offense he likes to run. What has he meant to this program since stepping in and really, taking over here this spring?
Well, he's a culture guy, right? The kind of guy that sets rules, makes his players agree to those certain rules. And if you violate those rules, there's a no tolerance, right? But not just someone who is the son of a coach and the nephew of a coach and has been around coaching, calling plays early in his career, and now at the age of 31 as a head coach. He also has, you know this from being around coaches and players, he's got this attitude and mentality about him. He's a big-time football coach. You could tell. He's in total control. I love when Al, my color guy, Al Wallace, when we meet with Tre before games that we do, I love how it's to the point, gives us what we need. Not one of those coach speak guys, tells you everything you need to know, open, honest with you, doesn't hide things from you. But then it's, okay, to the point, because I've got to follow my schedule. I've got to be out. I've got to go meet with my assistants. I've got to meet with my players. I've got to watch tape. I've got to do my scout. I've got to get ready for practice. And he's a very no nonsense to the point, nice guy, friendly guy, great to work with. But also it's very regimented to the point. And he's just got big time football coach all over him. And I think that Gardner Webb is only the beginning. I think that a couple of key wins, including a ranked win, the first in 6 years over a ranked team, is just the beginning for Tre Lamb.
Yeah, Tre Lamb been very impressive in this first spring, and I'm sure he's going to be looking forward to getting to a full fall season with the guys up there in Boiling Springs. Looking back, more focusing on Saturday, there's a lot of talent all over the field for this Running Bulldogs team. Give us a couple guys to watch for the CSU fans who, if they haven't been paying attention to Gardner Webb, they might not know much about him.
Well, on the offensive side, Isaiah Gathings, he led the conference in receiving last year. He is 6'4", 200 plus. I don't know how the major FBS programs didn't discover this guy. I know he was also a basketball star at Statesville High School. He's the son of a former collegiate basketball star, but just a freak athlete. In fact, I know I'm good friends with the guy who coached his dad in college, who said his dad is the most, if he's anything like his dad, Danny Gathings, who was the Big South Conference Men's Basketball Player of the Year back in 2004 at High Point, I believe. Mm-hmm. If he's anything like his dad, then he's the most athletic player you'll ever see. That his dad is the most athletic player I've ever coached, and Isaiah's like that. And it's mind-boggling to me that someone like him slipped through the cracks, ended up at an FCS program, and let's be honest, yes, an area FCS school from where he grew up, but not the most historically prominent FCS school. And he is, everything about him is NFL future. And I think there's early rumblings, still got another year left, that, he could potentially be a draft pick, not just an unsigned guy, but a draft pick. You got to watch out for him. He had a stretch going back, it ended recently, but he had a stretch of 5 straight games going back to last season of 10 plus catches and 100 plus yards in each game. That kind of talent. Mm-hmm. Also on the offensive end, Nari Gaither, running back, has burst onto the scene here in his sophomore campaign. Devron Harper is just a specialty. You guys have probably seen the highlights. He leads the country in punt return touchdowns this season. He is a shifty. I get why he fell through. He's a little bit smaller, right? But he is this shifty guy that just can turn out of trouble and run with the best of them. Make you miss in a phone booth type athleticism. Mm-hmm. And then on the defensive end, one guy specifically up front, Ty French, is a freshman, is just a monster. And I haven't heard Tre Lamb say this directly, but I've heard Tre hint to us, we've got a couple of guys that if it wasn't for COVID, I don't know that we would have gotten them. Maybe they'd be FBS guys, or maybe they'd be, go to the more successful, historically successful FCS schools. And I kind of get the sense that Ty may have been one of those guys. He's just a monster at the defensive end position. And so those 4 guys just burst off the tape if you watch them.
Yeah, definitely offensive focused. So definitely making things exciting for Saturday. At least that's what we hope for. Don't want to keep it too long. So we'll kind of wrap things up with this. You've been watching this Gardner Webb team all spring. You've seen them pretty much every single week. I'm going to leave you with this. Gardner Webb wins this football game on Saturday if they do blank.
Stop shooting themselves in the foot. Believe it or not, it seems so simple. There were, I want to say, if my memory serves me correctly, in the second game of the year against Presbyterian, granted now Presbyterian, mostly non-scholarship at this point, completing their transition, shouldn't be able to compete at the same level, on paper. And it was a 7-3 game at halftime. And there were 6 trips to the red zone in the first half. And I'm pretty sure the Running Bulldogs scored on one of them. No, I'm gonna correct that. There were 5 trips to the red zone, and the one touchdown they scored was on a 96-yard touchdown run by Nairi Gaither. It was a conference record. Memory serves me correctly, back from the second game of the season. So how do you get into the red zone so many times and you don't score? And sometimes the blunders are little. You go back to the Elon game in game 1. There were a couple interceptions thrown by Carlton Aiken. They were not his fault if you watch the tape. In fact, I've sat with Tre and watched the tape with him, and he said, look, all the reads are right. Receivers just got to catch the ball. Little things like that. Hey, we can't fumble the football. So shooting themselves in the foot, turning the football over, their negative turnover margin for the season. Well, okay, 2-1, a couple of big wins, including a ranked win, but you're not going to have sustained success, especially when you get deeper into conference play with teams that know what you're doing. And when Tre Lamb puts more of his offense on tape, you're not going to have sustained success if you're negative in the turnover margin. So it seems simple, but there's a lot of talent in the room there. I think there might be more talent than Gardner Webb fans are probably accustomed to seeing, but you're not going to win with that talent if you don't stop making small mistakes. And I think that it seems simple, it seems cliche, but it's so true.
Awesome. Well, Phil, appreciate you taking some time to talk to us. Should be having a lot of fun on Saturday. ESPN Plus kickoff is at noon. The Running Bulldogs and the Buccaneers of Charleston Southern getting ready to wrap up the spring season. Again, Phil, thanks for coming on. We'll surely chat with you later, and we'll continue on the pregame show.
Joined by sophomore wide receiver Isaac Ross, who's made quite the splash on Charleston Southern's offense this season. Isaac, you had your first collegiate 100-yard game and your first collegiate touchdown last week. What clicked for you last week that allowed you to have so much success?
I feel like it was just more opportunities this game, coming into the game and practicing. Throughout the week, we were going through a lot of stuff, and I feel like I was more involved in the offensive game plan. So I feel like the more opportunities that I was able to receive, that's how I, was able to get my first 100-yard game, first collegiate touchdown.
Now, was that first collegiate touchdown something you really wanted last week?
Honestly, it was because, coming from practice, scoring in practice, you don't want to be looked at as a practice player. That's something I would say, yeah. So I was just wanting to translate my practice play into the game and show my teammates that they can count on me in the game as well as in practice.
To have that much success, it starts with trust from your coaches and from your quarterback. So how do you build that trust within a talented wide receiver corps?
Just being consistent, like coming in, working hard, just being there for your quarterback and being there, like showing your coaches that they can count on you and they can call on you to make a play. And that comes from, over time, making a play at practice or just showing up to work every day and not worrying about anything else, just showing up to work and trying to get better. And in doing so, you make plays, and then that's how you build the trust.
Well, and in these 4 games, you're not just playing for minutes now, but you're also playing for minutes in the fall. So what are you trying to build off to prove to your coaches, especially today, that you want minutes in the fall?
Well, like I was saying about consistency, I want to show that I'm consistent and I can consistently make plays whenever my number is called. And not even just my number, but just being able to allow my coach to trust me to, block on the outside for the running backs or block for the quarterback or be able to, know every position on the field and be able to help my teammates when they don't know what to do or, just those type of things that show a coach that you are really really involved and, really paying attention and really doing everything that you can to get on the field, not just wanting the ball, but actually helping without the ball in my hands as well.
So what athletes inspire you both physically and mentally? And they don't necessarily have to be football players if they're not.
Muhammad Ali, I like Muhammad Ali a lot. I know it's ahead of my time, but I like to watch his documentaries. I have watched his documentaries in the past. Michael Jordan, because of his confidence and the way his will to win, his will to, just be the best in the biggest moments. And today's game, in football, I like Stephon Diggs. I like his swag. I like the way he plays. And he went from a situation to where, when he was in Minnesota, where, he was wanting more opportunities. And once he got them, he performed. So I feel like, I just want to be able to do the same thing. Once my number is called, I just perform to the best of my ability.
So how were you initially introduced to football and how did you fall in love with the sport?
My pops, he played in a professional football league, so for about 3 years. So when I was born, my mom said it was always just something I loved to do. And I can, as far as I can remember, football was my favorite sport. I started in 2nd grade and I have played football from 2nd grade all the way up until now. And it's just, I just love playing football, whether it's outside, whether it's on the team, I just fell in love with it at a young age. And I feel like maybe my pops playing and, coming from Rock Hill, football is a huge part of the community. So that's just what we do.
And why the wide receiver position?
I like to score touchdowns. I was originally a quarterback. I played quarterback in middle school and my 9th grade year. And I just kind of transitioned to wide receiver, just playing with other teammates or other players who are required to play this position, So I just came to receiver and it worked out and it clicked. So I stayed where I was at.
Awesome. Well, I love it. Isaac, thank you so much for your time and best of luck today.
Thank you.